Hi, this is the Be Well with Michelle Greenwell podcast. Our heartwarming conversation is designed to lift you on your wellness journey. Grab your cup of tea and enjoy the podcast. Do you have a favorite song that you go to when you need your spirits lifted? And perhaps you hear a song on the radio and it pulls you back to a memory from a long time ago. And do your feet have a mind of their own when you hear that uplifting tune and you just want to start moving? The power of music has been documented for centuries. And in fact, the power of music goes back to the beginning of time with the power of a heartbeat, the shimmering of light, or the buzz of plants in a garden. And today, music is part of the day, our community interactions, and our wellness journeys. Today, we're joined by Lyn Koonce. Hello, Lyn.
Hello.
Good to have you. And Lyn is a facilitator, vocal coach, and musician. She holds a bachelor's and master's degree in music education and choral conducting, and has worked with various music groups, including choral and instrumental musicians in schools, church choirs, worship bands, community singers of all ages. She's a touring singer-songwriter and has played throughout the United States. And she's studied improvisation with Bobby McFerrin, Bobby Previtt, music for people, and she's trained in a practice called, let's see if I get this right, Musica do Circulo, music of the circle. And that's based in Brazil. We're going to talk about that today. She shares her inventive practice of music and improvisation expression called circle sounds to help teams connect and work more efficiently together. And she does this with organizations, music festivals, schools, faith and retreat centers, and beyond. Get ready because we're going to have some nice, juicy topics to talk about today. Thank you so much, Lyn, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be here. It really is.
So before we dive into the topics, everybody knows I'm going to ask you, what is the cup of tea you planned for today?
I have a decaf winter mint tea. And it's caffeine-free blend of, I'm just gonna read this. Oh yeah, organic peppermint, some lemon balm, some ashwagandha, and some other natural flavors. But it's kind of marketed as a stress-free or stress-less tea. And I just love it, specifically in the afternoon. It's winter mint, so it's cool, it's refreshing, and it tastes. I just love the way it tastes.
It's going to give you that nice mental openness, and that
I hope
with
so.
that smell too at the beginning. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, sure.
Yeah, the smell of that is just so. It just opens the senses up, which is so wonderful. Yeah, beautiful. Well, I thought I'd do something a little different today. I usually have an herbal something or green tea, but I actually went to my King George, which is an orange pekoe. And I thought I would bring something forward. I've talked about it before on different shows, but and it's interesting the tea you chose because you said caffeine free, and I've got a black tea, and black tea has caffeine in it. And so many people are afraid of the caffeine. And I'll say it that way because I get a lot of people when I'm at trade shows that'll say, I don't drink black tea. And it's just that I want to stay away from caffeine. But I don't think what they know about tea is that the caffeine in it actually is a calmer. It actually calms the nervous system while it opens up the mind. So now you chose a caffeine-free version, and that winter mint is going to lift things up and open things too for the mind. But a black tea will also do that. And so it's not about so much that you had the caffeine hit. It's actually you calmed the nervous system. You actually started to regulate a little bit better, and you open your mind. So I wanted to bring that to the table today because music does that in a different way. And so this is a way to kind of bring it all around. And I wanted to just point out that very often they'll actually, um, I don't want to say prescribe, but they'll offer that black tea is a way to get a good night's rest
Mm.
because
Hmm.
of the L-theanine that is in it, which gives that calming effect. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I never drink anything after noon, never drink anything
Right.
after 6, right? Waiting for that. But anyway, so if you're someone who's maybe avoided black teas, which I did too, I stayed with herbals, then this might be a way for you to think a little bit differently about how you can support the nervous system while you're listening to a really good piece of music. We'll put the two together. All right. And I wanted to just read on the package. I chose King George also because that represents the Strathspeys and reels that are the favorite ones for the step dancers here in Cape Breton. And some of the favorite tunes that the musicians like to play are also King George reel is one of the top. And the affirmation on the package is build and nourish community by inviting guests to sit with a cup of tea any time of the day. So as you and I dive into the discussion today and how you and I are going to be collectively gathering people in Marathon Jam, which we'll talk about in a bit, I wanted to bring that sense of community forward, that sense of purpose and opportunity for healing. So Lyn, cheers, or slange, as we'd say here.
What is
Thanks for
that you
being here.
say?
Slange, slange va.
Oh, yes, I have heard that. Thank you. Oh,
The other thing is that orange pico just has such a distinct smell, and that immediately calms the system, engages the motor response, which is let's get moving. And when you're doing music, that could be the musician playing, that could be singing, and that can be us participating as dancers. So, okay, Lyn, you have a wonderful background and you've got a lot of experience traveling and singing, songwriting. Do you want to just tell us a bit about your journey with your career and what inspires you with music?
Sure. Sure. So I went to school for music and knew that I didn't want to be a performer, as in I was a vocal. My instrument was voice, and I knew that I didn't want to sing opera necessarily. I didn't really have the voice for that, but I did a practicum with teaching uh, youth, and I thought, oh, this is it. So music education was my focus, and I taught for a number of years in the public school system, taught music to elementary age kids, and then went back, got my master's in choral conducting, which is also a love of mine. And so I've had a church job for many, many years. I no longer have one now, but had a part-time church job where I was director of music and handbells and worship band, that kind of thing. And also, not really related to music, but somewhat, I was in radio for a long time. So after I got my master's, I kind of thought that some large church job was going to fall in my lap because, after all, I had done all the education, right? Well, that wasn't the case necessarily. So I was piecemealing it together, as many musicians do, or artists in general. And I worked in radio for over 15 years, producing and writing commercials. And so not really related to music in the way of what my job was, but the creative endeavor of having to come up with creative scripts and then the production end of things was definitely a creative endeavor. And then so all along I was playing in restaurants and that kind of thing, just locally. And in 2018, I decided I really wanted to try this full-time singer-songwriter thing out. And it had always been a dream of mine. I remember in college when I was supposed to be singing my arias, and I was, playing James Taylor on my guitar, and I was I was really going the folk route is what was happening. And so in 2018, I went on a quest to attend as many songwriting retreats as I could, just to soak up that uh, that skill even deeper of really knowing how to write a good song. I had always written songs, but I wanted to go to class, wanted to go to school. And so I went to about 4 different retreats over the course of that year and met a lot of people who were able to help with connections. And then luckily kind of got on kind of a tour track and did really all over the United States, but mostly centered around the Southeast. Did some singing and songwriting, opening for people, and just sort of getting my chops down, as they would say. And then went to Nashville, recorded a new record, and well, I'll keep going because the story will go too long if I go down too many tangents. But um, recorded a record in Nashville. I was really proud of, really excited about, fundraised for, did a Kickstarter, and opened for the Indigo Girls in March of 2020, March 7th. And of course, we know what happened in March. So that really, because that shut everything down that I was doing, I sort of learned a lot of video editing skills with my church job. I was still doing that. Um, but I started searching for how am I going to kind of reinvent myself as a singer-songwriter who doesn't have a platform? And it's someone at my level who was touring to kind of, you spend money, you make money, you make money, you spend money. And it's a difficult road at that level to really make a sustainable living. And so I I really, for several months, thought I was kind of lost in really what I was going to do. And uh, a friend shared that he had been, before the pandemic, had been to the Omega Institute in New York and had spent a week there with Bobby McFerrin and a large class of people doing some circle singing and improvisation. And I thought, improvisation, I love improvisation. I love musical improvisation and used to do that with my kids all the time and would even do that some with community groups. And the more I learned about Bobby McFerrin, his philosophy, and those who were sort of his cohorts and teaching around the United States, the more I thought I have to do this. And because of Zoom, it connected me to an international community immediately. And so I was in Zoom rooms many times during the week, practicing improvisation and meeting people from Egypt and the UK and Canada and all over the world, uh, and practicing improvisation. And through Zoom, I feel like if you can do practice improvisation through on a Zoom in a Zoom room, then you can do it pretty much anywhere. And so, more than improvisation, it was really kind of a way for me to connect to myself and that which comes really naturally to me. Uh, and so I really got interested in feeling like this was kind of a new path, but I didn't know how to make it sustainable. I didn't know how to um, well, certainly if still in COVID, didn't know how to sort of organize people to experience that. So I learned about a group of 3 guys in Brazil who are called Música do Círculo, which is music of the circle. And these 3 individuals were musicians, but they met in a class of nonviolent communication. And so they bring that philosophy into their teaching of music from the circle, which is circle singing and improvisation and games and ways to help people connect in all sorts of situations. And so I took the online modules, they were on Zoom, and then the last module was in Brazil. So I had to go to Brazil to complete the certification.
Oh, darn.
It was just a fantastic experience. And so for about 10 hours a day, we sang and we improvised and we're just sitting and standing in circles and dancing and moving all around. And while it was something that I felt I resonated with, it had not been anything that I had done before. But that idea of creating in the moment and doing something sort of randomly or out of nowhere, however you might describe it, is fascinating to me. And so when I came back from that trip, which was in January of 23, I thought, how can I use my education background and then my new sort of skills with helping facilitate improvisation to kind of do this in a community situation, in a school situation, really anywhere that might allow for that. And so I started some classes, just community classes, kind of an anyone can come, please come and try this crazy thing out, where we're just standing in a circle and I have you make up things on the spot. First, in a so the musica del circolo way is there are three main modalities, and one is singing, of course. But generally, before we start that, we start with just making sound, with our body percussion. So snapping, clapping, so all of that, and feeling the music in our body. So embodiment is a huge part of that. And then vocal percussion, we use that too. A lot of that, and then combining that with singing. And what I came away with was the connection again to myself and to how we can connect to one another. And so when I started those community groups, I thought these are people that don't know one another. By the end of the week in Brazil, we all felt like we had been together for a year, because of that experience and what singing does and improvisational singing does. So that was a great laboratory for me to bring community members together and say, hey, let's try this. Let's try this. So then I created a business called Circle Sounds and have been doing that for about a year and a half and going into organizations, mostly on their sort of in their team building realm of things, and helping people use music as a way to connect, helping people use music as a way to work more effectively together. And when you are connected and connected to yourself and to one another, so much productivity can happen, so much connection and interconnectedness. So there's a reduction of stress. There's an improved activity level. There's the ability to kind of communicate without speaking, and that's a whole new skill that people have. So there are a lot of benefits, and I'm going more into the details of improvisational singing and singing together in general. But that's sort of been my trajectory in a short and long answer all at the same time. And so that's where I am right now.
And so when you're working with your groups in improvisation, what do you notice about how people change when they get brave enough to make those vocal sounds, or they finally let go and then they just start belting out the sounds that they really want? Can you talk about that transformation part?
Yes. Well, you just mentioned that the bravery that happens or the courage that happens. There is that sort of liminal time when someone goes from, I want to do this, but I'm not comfortable doing this. They feel very vulnerable. And sometimes it's just a matter of moving their body enough to where maybe um, some people feel more comfortable moving, some people feel more comfortable just with the vocal percussion. And so I try to find a way in. And sometimes it's in groups. We do things as a big group at once so that nobody's put on the spot. And generally speaking, I've been working with people who volunteer. So that's a big difference between, you walk into corporate America kind of thing, and someone says you have to go to this class for the next hour because this is our team building exercise. That's a little bit different, and I'm not focusing so much on that. But I think that especially after the pandemic, people are looking for ways to try some new things, to try to connect. Loneliness is just skyrocketing, and people are liking this sort of out of the box way of connecting with strangers, friends, coworkers. And so I think it's a desire specifically to want to try something new. And so that's what happens. There's the transformation of I'm willing to be vulnerable and try this one thing. And once they do this one thing, it opens up to, as you said, to belting out, you know, a tune, or putting people in small groups really helps. And so we'll have, okay, you're going to sing this, and I'll teach you the part. I'll sing it for you. You sing it back to me. We do sort of a call and response, and then have them continue. And in a typical circle singing experience, keep that going. And then I'll start another part where then I'll have people, much like you would do in a choir, but you're just improvising, making things up. So once people will say, okay, I'm going to make something up, and there are no mistakes, that's always been a premise of mine, no mistakes, and everything is optional. So just try it. So if you just have someone try doom, 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 you can usually get people to at least try a couple of notes if they're not comfortable singing. So it's just a fantastic and fascinating way to watch people develop. And then all of a sudden, there's community. There's instant community when you make music together. And whether it's improvised or not, it's certainly been researched over and over again about the value of music and singing together specifically, and how that can bring people together. Helps with self-regulation and reducing stress and those kinds of things. So that's one of my most favorite things, is seeing that transformation. And it's usually when we could get people just to do a little bit, and then they open up more and more and more.
And my experience too, usually mine's been with tap shoes on my feet and doing improvisation that way, although I've done body percussion and vocal as well. But you have the moment, and I just want to bring this forward for people listening, because sometimes when we feel uncomfortable, we just avoid going that direction.
Yes.
It just doesn't feel good. So you just don't go there. But there's an uncomfortableness that arrives as your body kind of goes into miscommunication of things. And then all of a sudden it realigns itself. And then it's like, it's so awesome.
It's like that regulation. Yes.
And it's that patience with yourself to not judge, well, I'm not going to be good at this, or this isn't something I want to do, but actually realizing that little bit of uncomfortableness that arrives is your body trying to figure out the right way. And then when it does, how good it feels. So I just wanted to bring that forward, because I know for a lot of people even thinking about improvising is like, whoa, that's going to be really difficult. But there's this lovely bit of, if all you had to contribute was a couple of sounds, let the discord happen. And then all of a sudden, those two sounds don't mean anything anymore. You're like, give me some more.
Exactly. Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that sort of almost feels like a fracture inside your head until you sort of mentally or physically move forward, and then it does kind of regulate and realign.
Yeah. And I say that a lot to my Tai Chi students as well. It would be the same in dance, but in Tai Chi, if we're learning 108 moves, it's a lot to remember. And then you go, please only remember 2 things. But everybody goes, oh yeah, I'll remember the 2. And then they go, but I'm going to try to remember the 50 as well. And then it's this discord that comes in, and then they think, I'm never going to get this. And then all of a sudden, the patterns inside the body just rearrange. And then the movement is so easy. But it's being present long enough to be able to experience that piece. Music, you can get there a lot quicker because you might only
Sure.
have a few sounds that you're working
Sure.
with, and you're only
Right.
responsible in the circle for a little bit. But that it's just so delicious on the other side.
It is. And you brought up a really good point, and it's something that I don't like to do a lot of talking at the very beginning. I really want to get into the activity and not give people too much time to think. But it's also important for me to do my best in setting the quote expectation that there are no expectations, and and that your critic, your inner critic, will be there on your shoulder, and for us to have permission to say thank you, no thank you. We're just going to try some. I just want you to be playful. I just want you to try something silly. Make a funny sound. And we start with something that I learned from Music for People, with one sound around. So as fast as we go around the circle, boo, ba, hee, ah, da, just make a sound, any sound. And all of a sudden, that's when sometimes a transformation can begin to happen. But if they just make that sound, they can put that critic kind of on the shelf and say, okay, all I have to do is just be silly or have fun, or, there are zero expectations. So I really try to emphasize that from the get-go.
And then if we go to the other end of the experience, which is, like you said, at the end of a week with all of those people in Brazil, you feel like you've known them your lifetime.
Yes.
It's just so much goes without words. You don't require any words. It's just living that experience. So when you're watching a group of people that you facilitated in a circle, what is it like for you at the end when you see those same experiences come out and people are hugging each other and realizing, oh my gosh, I did this and I feel so transformed?
It makes me emotional thinking about it, because in a 45-minute, whether it's 45 minutes or 4 hours, there is always transformation, and there is always interconnectedness. And I feel like that is the goal of what we're doing, is trying to connect with one another, and we're using music to do it. So it is transforming for me every single time it happens. I start this is a música do círculo technique, but I start by asking everyone, depending on how large the group is. I could have a group of 150 or a group of 10. But so sometimes with a large group, I'll have people pair up. But in a smaller group, I say, go around the room and just give me one sentence about describe how you are feeling in your body right now. How are you arriving is the question. So not about what happened yesterday or what you're anticipating. How are you feeling in your body? So that first thing helps people become present. And I feel like that's really an important skill, because we often are living in the past or in the future. And so we go around, and we sometimes, if it's a large group, I may just have one word, so one adjective that describes how you're feeling in your body. But I'll always close it by asking people how they're feeling in their body now, as we leave. And the transformation in the words that they shared is pretty spectacular.
Yeah. I just, for anybody listening that has not done a circle activity like this before, it is just so powerful. And I've been on many different ones, sometimes with my tap shoes, sometimes singing, sometimes just responding to a musician with my eyes closed. And whether I had shoes on or not didn't matter. It was just responding. But it's been so empowering and life transforming each time. So I just want everybody who's listening in just to think about the value of what we're talking about and what impact it might have in your life if you choose to find a group similar and have this experience. You don't have to talk about anything. You don't have to share your life stories. You don't have to, your dreams and desires, nothing. You just have to be present in the moment, willing to participate. That's it.
Perfectly said.
So
Thank you for that marketing.
with that, if we move to the event that you and I are going to be at, which is Marathon Jam special event, what are you going to be bringing to the table for that lovely event?
My hope is to really to do the same thing that we're talking about, is to create or facilitate an atmosphere where people feel seen, and do that through music. It will be a group that I haven't, obviously none of us have been in front of before, and so it's difficult to know because you don't really know how things are going, and sometimes until you just walk in the room and you say, oh, okay, I see how this is. The energy of a room even before people walk in, I find, is really important if I can get into the space. And so I really want to create a sense of openness and fun and play through improvising music and having people just make up sounds in the beginning, and then we'll work to extend those a little bit longer, a little bit longer. So there'll be longer held notes. There'll be what something that Bobby McFerrin talks about is creating your personal language. So we take our, if we're in the United States or other places where they speak English, we take that out of the equation so that everyone can feel like they're on the same plane. So we create syllables, and maybe it's dungareo wa ya hezu dungalo a, whatever it might be, just that whatever comes out of your mouth, and we practice that, is a way to just connect without having to put meaning to words. Mm-hmm. So at first it feels silly, and then it feels sort of grounding and primitive and meaningful. So I hope to create an atmosphere where people feel comfortable kind of finding that.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. And the people that we want to attract to this event are people who just want to come and experience it, but we also have people who may be facilitators of other kinds of programs where this might be a way for them to find something else that really supports them coming through the music genre.
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful. So you have moved into the improvisation space. Is there anything on the horizon that you're looking at or getting ready to do or thinking about?
I've started some new work as a music consultant for an organization called Arts Now, which is an integrative approach to adding the arts into the curriculum of classroom for the curriculum for classroom teachers. So schools apply for grants and get grants to be an Arts Now school. And for example, for me, they'll send me in, and we actually work with classroom teachers to help them incorporate music into their curriculum. So their music specialist in their school is already going into a deep dive with music. So this is, how can I teach fractions, or how can I teach the weather or sound waves using music that's accessible to every classroom teacher, so they don't need to have music degrees. And it's an exciting opportunity that's new for me, and I'm absolutely loving it because I love the approach of this organization. Because 9 weeks after they've had me come in and work with both the teachers and then the students, they have a dance consultant come in. 9 weeks later, they have theater and then digital arts, and so it is a wraparound service for schools that sign up for often a three year contract or program. And so I get to kind of use my improvisational skills with kids. And so what I love is that it gets me back into the classroom. And so I get the breadth of being able to work with kids and then working with teachers in my regular circle sounds work. work with teachers or educators, whomever, who may work with students, and how to get them working using improvisation to kind of loosen themselves up and loosen their kids up. So it's called Arts Now, and I'm excited about this new endeavor.
Oh, that's excellent. I just know, everybody always turns to the arts when stress starts to rise, rather than turn to the arts before the stress arrives.
Great
use
point. Great
use
point.
the arts to keep yourself grounded, and then you can do all the other things that you'd like to be doing. Yeah.
And if you turn to the arts before, there's another organization that does a lot of work for after disaster using the arts to help bring communities together and healing. And if we turn to the arts before that, we would already sort of have these pre-made communities who already know how to work together. And I think it would be an even more effective way to heal after disaster, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. What a concept for us to put out there into the ethers, and inspire for others to think about. Because how beautiful would that be if the community was solid to begin with? Yeah,
yes.
Right. Yeah. Instead of we just have our emergency plan.
Correct.
And here's what we'll do in the emergency and hope everybody's okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. Now you have a brand new grandbaby. And as you think about how music has been a part of your life, in what way do you see music and your involvement in this next generation?
Wow. Well, going back to the arts now, which is sort of some new work for me, that it even if our younger generation or those with whom I have direct contact with don't go into the arts specifically, if they, I believe that arts can help create well-rounded youth. And if we can create an opportunity for kids to learn using the arts, that would be something that would be a goal of mine, is to allow for learning, sort of 360 learning, so that we're not just learning about, math and reading and all of that, but we can integrate the arts. That would definitely be a goal of mine, for sure.
Beautiful. Beautiful. As you start humming and scatting.
That's right.
Your grandbaby. Yeah. It's so much
I can't wait to do that. And I'm already beginning. To do, singing and just, yeah. She's only, let's see, she's less than a week old. So there's a lot that will happen between now and even a few years down the road. But It's such a joy.
Exactly. And as my son says to me, those songs are old songs. You need to get in with the new songs. And I'm like, but the old songs are good songs.
They really are. They really are. There's value in both.
Exactly. Everybody knows who Sharon Lois and Bram is.
That's right.
Oh, Lyn, how can people find you? What is the best way to interact with you?
Certainly my website, which is Lyn Koonce Music, and the way you spell that is LynKoonce music.com. Same for email is lyn@lynkooncemusic.com. And those are probably the two best ways to reach me directly.
Perfect. And your music, is there somewhere they can find your music?
They can find it on Spotify. They can find it through the website as well. And yes, my website is probably where they can actually buy a CD if people still know what that is and are inclined to do so, they can do that. But I am on Spotify as well. So
beautiful. Lyn, thank you so much for the conversation and for the inspiration that you're bringing to both what you're going to be taking really across the country, which is amazing, but then also what you'll be bringing to Marathon Jam. I'm excited to be in the room with you and to get some scatting done.
Oh man, to you as well. I'm really looking forward to this whole collaboration. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Everyone, if you've heard something that you really think is interesting and you want to try some of these circles, please reach out to Lyn and she'll be able to support you with where you can find that. And we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to connect with music and to really find the healing power within. Be well, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell. There are a couple of resources I want to just point out. When you go to the website greenwellcenter.com, you'll have a pop-up window. That pop-up gives you the top 8 easy stress releasers that you can use every day. That's something you can put beside your computer, the bathroom mirror, beside the bedside table. A great resource. Also, my YouTube channel. It is full of playlists with all kinds of different ways that you can activate energy and bring vitality into your day. You can find that when you go to YouTube at Michelle Greenwell. And last, if you're a Linktree person, Linktree, linktr.ee/Greenwell Center. That has all my resources in one spot. Those are for intricate little things that you can't get everywhere. And it's a wonderful way for me to be able to share all the different aspects of the kind of work I do. So thank you for listening. Be sure to drink that tea. And if you want to have the tea blend that was shared in the podcast today, then be sure to check out capebretontea.ca. Have a wonderful day.